It's a chilly winter morning in Melbourne's west, and the Altona Miniature Railway has a buzz of energy. The club was established in 1976, although they moved to this site in 1982. Today is the annual general meeting, one of the club's largest events. This is Jake. He's a club member, and he offered to show me around.
Obviously, we are leaving from the station.
Yep.
And as we leave past the station, we'll progress past the steaming bays, which will be on our left. The steaming bays have been here pretty much since the start of the club, in one form or another. They also have all our rolling stock containers, so we store all our engines and carriages. Mainly member storage at this end, club storage is at the other end. And some lovely parkland. This will all be eventually extended. We're hoping to do some bigger club events like our interclub run days. They are fairly packed, so we need a bit more capacity eventually for that. Locomotive containers obviously for storage. Pass over the two crossings here, and then again on our left you'll see there's a set of yards and a pair of sheds. One of the sheds is our track working area where we build all our points and other bits of track. There's a ballast storage area, and all the club rolling stock is also stored in the other container as well next door to that. Some gardening sheds with our lawnmowers and everything else all stored. Track building jigs, etc. are all in there, and extra work tables. There's some air tanks and other bits and pieces stored as well for future club use. And there's the bunkers, which is where we keep our ballast, and we used to burn off green waste there. And to our right, we have the drain, which we'll come back to. That's for Melbourne water from the golf course. This is Siberia. This was opened, I think, around 2010. This was one of our first extensions. It's provided a couple of extra 100 metres of track, and it actually provided a deviation as well later on for when this needs to be rebuilt. Quite a nice piece of track. Obviously we pass along the boundary of Altona Golf Course here. They're good neighbours, we don't really need to do anything with them much. Yeah.
Thanks.
That'll be pretty much it, I think, until we get to the mosque.
Why is it called Siberia?
Because it was so far away from the station, it was like out in the back. So it was a bit of a running theme that it was like going to the middle of nowhere. It's proved its worth for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a good run. Back the way we came, back past the track working sheds, showing the side of our next extension, which should provide an alternate route. We'll run down the side of the creek and link back up in the other side. One of the two times we'll pass the club rooms is obviously where we have all our meetings. Our HO gauge railway is located here. It's the site of a future station platform for members to park their trains during lunch at a run day or during an interclub. And with the new track extension, it'll also allow us to run a dedicated 5-inch gauge track on the inside and a 7.25-inch gauge track on the outside.
Right.
Thanks. No worries. Should keep us busy for a while. This area on our right is the future public area. So we've installed another platform for birthday parties to be run out of here. We've actually got a grant for 3 carports to provide shade. So the footings are in, they just need to be finished being erected. We have one that's on the ground and assembled. Then behind me, you can see the Islamic Centre of Australia, I believe. And they've just finished building that. It's, I believe, a mosque and a school as well, with a full-time caretaker on board.
Oh, cool.
going back through the centre, we're actually on the spot where the originally a 5-inch and a 7 1/4 inch gauge training track for junior members to run through here. It was just a simple loop that was disconnected from everything else with a bridge in the middle. That was all taken out because it wasn't getting utilised, and we've installed this new platform and passing loop, and it sort of reinstates the inner loop which used to be over there along the inside of the station. It will eventually be relinked up back through to where it was. You can see the remains of where it was, but that's not really a pressing issue for us at the moment. Back up the slight grade before we pass back through the centre again. And then up the 1 and 60 through the cutting. Provided driver Squires makes it. He seems fairly confident. There's our old girl. She did all our track laying for us. Rolled roller. That was an ex-member called Malcolm's baby. Unfortunately passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. But that was his favourite. Back up through the tunnels. We've recently erected these 3 tunnels. They're actually bridges to allow us to go over the hill in the future. So a significant amount of money has been spent on those. They just need some final finishing off.
Quite loud as well.
Yes, especially when the children scream as they go through them.
This is Matt, the club secretary.
That's dramatic. Wow, cool.
Sorry?
That's dramatic.
So, the majority of the equipment's owned by its members. From the outset in 1976, it was all privately owned, with mainly Richard Hayes' Elfrida, which is a Heidi, and 2 of his carriages were the mainstay in the early years running our portable track before we got our site in Altona North. Throughout the years, the majority of stock up until the 90s, well, actually all the stock up until the 90s were privately owned, until 2 carriages and an engine was donated by Ray Hinchcliffe back in 1990. Probably 10 years ago, the club actually purchased a number of privately owned cars to facilitate public running from various members. We currently probably have 22 passenger cars.
Wow.
That the club owns. The club's endeavouring is actually getting 6 more constructed this year, because we're actually running at capacity with using up to 16 carriages from other railways to allow public operations to continue. So the club owns six locomotives, 3 of which are imported from America, which operate the bulk of our trains for private bookings as well as public run days. We also have a club-built large-scale engine, which was actually built from past members' broken down car. We actually resurrected the motor out of that car, and that's what's presently in the locomotive. We also have an electric engine that was used in the Myer department stores up until 2 years ago, as well as 2 stored steam engines, which we're looking at currently. The locomotive in question was built by, we believe, a past teacher and his students at the Brunswick Technical School, which is now the Brunswick Secondary College. They were generous enough to donate the engine to the railway. It's currently in our shed, where one of our members is currently looking at it to see if he can make it operational again. There's a number of little issues with it. It was never designed to be a functional locomotive in the sense of a locomotive.
Okay.
It was actually designed to come out of its display case, fired up, and run on rollers. So it doesn't have some of its, for example, the tender doesn't have suspension springs. A lot of the components, in terms of running it as an engine with a person on it, you won't be able to the way it's designed, so there'll be a few modifications needed to do that if we can get it running. Obviously there's a fair work to look at considering with the boiler, we've found that the cylinders are all frozen and bits and pieces need to be rectified.
This is Richard. He's a foundation member of the Altona Miniature Railway, and he offered to teach me some of the history behind the place, as well as show me how he's been building track for the past 30 years.
Well, I'm a foundation member.
Oh, wow. That's absolutely amazing.
There was myself, Murray Hill, Peter Croxford. We actually all started it off. Murray Hill was unfortunately, he's passed on. He was a member of Moorabbin, and Peter Croxford was a member of Moorabbin, but they lived on this side of town, and they found a lot of travelling backwards and forwards all the time, and there was nothing over this side of town, model railway. So Murray, I'd known Murray for years, and he'd come and see me about it, and asked me whether I would be interested in being a part of starting up one here in Altona, and I said yeah. So we went and seen the council and that sort of thing and try and find a reasonable piece of land, and we did a lot of shopping around. We got suggested to do a lot of parts, and then Murray got to know one of the councillors, Les Croft, very well, and we negotiated them with Les about some properties sort of thing, because he was mayor at the time, and we actually went out to an architect out in St Kilda Road, which the council was looking at, surveying all this area we're here now, and went out and had a look at it, because on this site there's us now, there's the golf course, there's basketball, tennis course, golf course and everything all in the same area. And the architect asked us what sort of land we needed, and I sort of said to him, well, I reckon we need at least 4 acres. Oh, he said, you need that much land? I said, yeah. Anyway, the way they had it drawn, there was only about 2 acres left over in this corner. And there was a bit of a right of way going up to the up to where the swimming pool is today. And I said, well, that's not going to be suitable for us.
Yeah.
And he said, oh look, he said, leave it with us, and I'll get back to you. Anyway, about 3 or 4 weeks later, they got back to us, and he said, we'd like to see you out of here at St Kilda Road again. So we went and had a look at it, and yeah, they altered the golf course to give us about 4 acres of land.
Oh, great.
So it worked out good, and it just grew from there. We had an official open day here with Les, and it just grown from that, just more and more. And a couple of the other guys that are in the club sorting, they used to help manufacture the track as well. I've done probably 80% of it.
Wow.
Manufacturing and laying it. But there was another chap who actually helped, and he made a few pieces and whatnots, and we grew from there, and yeah. But then he's sort of retired and got out of it. He doesn't do much now. I've now retired sort of thing, but I'm spending more and more time down here now that I'm retired sort of thing, doing track work. Yeah, it's just grown from that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we had a portable track. We used to go out to different parties, to Christmas parties and that type of thing, and to raise funds to actually get started here. Yeah. So we did that for about, I think about 5 or 6 years before we actually moved into here. Well, no, a lot of it's gone now. Well, the original logo, which was it's 3 times this size, and the original logo ran in Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, in a gold mine. And a friend of mine, he actually went out and seen the logo, and when the engine was retired, he actually was given the logo, And he took it home and had it in his backyard for years, and then he decided to make some scale models. And he made a set of patterns and that, and got cylinders and all the rest of it cast. And I got a set of cylinders and wheels and that off him to make one as well. And but I went over there in 75 to actually have a look at it, and then we come back and decided, we're going to make one. And that's took about 3 years to build it and get it up and running. And this was, when it was built at the time, was the first Briggs boiler built in Victoria for the model trains that you see running around today.
Wow.
It was the start of them sort of. There was never any other boiler that was made in Victoria. There's Briggs boilers, and it's the start of them. They're all making them now because they're so easy and that simple to make. And it's the finished product. It's had a few rebuilds. It's done a lot of work. It did a lot of work on the portable track when we were running to raise funds. So sort of thing today, it's a little bit retired a bit today.
Yeah,
doing only get it out occasionally.
That's a well-earned retirement, I think.
So it's at the moment I've got to get the boiler recertified because your certification on the boiler only lasts about 3-4 years, and then you've got to get it re-inspected and everything. But that's all got to get redone again, and maybe get it out again and have some more fun with it. We had my father-in-law, he actually made a diesel in the shape of a B-class diesel and some carriages. Well, they ran for years sorting on the portable track and down here, and then finally they decided to retire at the diesel sorting. It needed a lot of work done to it, and they wound up selling it, which I wasn't very happy about it, but anyway, it got sold. And anyway, the person has got that. He's actually a member of the club, and he's completely modifying it and turning it into a different sort of a diesel. Maybe one day it'll come back. The two carriages, which needed a lot of work, and I made sure that they didn't get sold to an outside person. I wound up buying them, and I want to restore them and bring them back as the original cars. So to run. There has been other carriages and whatnots that they decided to get rid of. They were too dangerous to use, so I think so they just completely scrapped them sort of thing and kept the bogies out of them and rebuild the bogies and use them on new cars. But there's not too much of the old stuff around now. Well, we built this about 2.5 years ago, and for doing our ballast work, and it's got automatic doors in the bottom, so that when we get it out to where we want to do the ballasting, we open the doors up and it'll leave us 3 rows of ballast, not on the track but down in between the sleepers.
Right.
And then we just come and knock the top off it and level it out and pack it, and then you've got to go back and refill it again. So,
Right.
But that'll do about 30 feet of track
Okay.
to ballast it.
Right.
The amount of ballast in that wagon. And then we've got down further our generator for lighting plant for doing the drilling and welding outside. We just take that out when we need it. And that's on just on a little 4-wheel wagon that we reused. It was an old wagon. We fixed it up to take the generator.
Right.
So that gives us 240 volt power out there.
Right.
And then down further into the other bench, we've got a flat wagon that we use to, when we transport the tracks that we need outside, we plonk it on that wagon and take them around to where we need them.
Right.
And then there's another wagon down further, which we use for putting all our picks and shovels and all that type of stuff in it, we just hook the whole lot together and out we go with it. So it goes as a complete work train.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Well-
all right.
Yeah. Well, we build the sets of points. You can see the one that's outside there on the ground. That's only just been finished. We manufacture them in here. I'll show you how we sort of set up to start the thing off, and then how we build the rest of it. So we've got to come down this other end.
Great.
See how this all works. Now, on this board, as you can steel plate, you can see we have all these pegs.
Yep.
Now, as you see at the moment, they're going in on an angle to meet up into the straight part. This part here is straight, and these are on a curve. Now, what we use is these things.
Yep.
They fit on there. The actual rail. We do. These all fit on. Yeah. These ones holds the curve coming in. Right, so you imagine that they eventually will work their way into a collision point, right?
Yep.
Now, we put steel plates underneath,
Yep.
which go right through to join the pieces together and hold that shape. So what we'll wind up with when it's all welded together in here is you've got a straight line and you've got a curved line,
Yep.
okay, with all the sleeper plates right. We then take it out of this jig because it's all welded together. We then put it on that bench, and then you've got to spend time putting all the other lines in
Right.
to come in, and they've got to come into a certain part to a collision point, and then you've got to have moving blades to cross from one side to the other, and then there's all rods and that's got to put underneath to operate to make them all move at the same time,
Yep.
and that's how we wind up with a set of points.
Great. How long have you been using these jigs here at the railway?
Well, this one's been in use now probably for, it'll be close on 35 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, it was designed in the very early days. Another chap and myself, we both worked on it together to work it out, and then there's certain holes, as you can see, all drilled in the plate
Yep.
for certain radiuses.
Right.
Now, at the moment, this is set up for a 60-foot radius curve, right? That one there's a 70-foot radius, and that's an 80-foot radius, so it's not as sharp.
Yeah.
And we used all those three different types of points throughout the system. And then, as far as the radiuses and that go with most of the track, we've got this new jig that I've only just recently made. When we put the rails in it, they all fit in like that, and then these little clamps, that clamps that one, and then so on, so long as we go, and then another bit of rail. This piece of rail will fit in this side,
Yep.
and then because we run two different gauges, we run 5-inch and 7 1/4. So you've got to have another rail. So that rail fits in there. That gives you your 3 rails. We then have these plates. They fit in underneath. No idea how they all sort of go in. And then it's all clamped down with these. They screw them down. That puts pressure on there so we can weld them.
Right.
Okay, and then because these have got 2 rails over this side, these clamps go on and they hold them down.
Great.
It's a lot of mucking around to start off, in making pieces. But once you've done all that in the manufacture of putting track together, it's very fast. We'll manufacture 20 feet of track in about half an hour.
Oh wow.
That piece of track will go out and set up then again for another one.
That's really amazing.
So you're building 20 feet of track in one go in 20 minutes, half an hour.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of time to manufacture the original jig, but once you've manufactured that, the turnout time is horrific. So you turn them out really quick. So it is, because the other rail costs a lot more to buy.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different process to screw it all down. And we've sort of looked at both, and they prefer to go this way because it's a much more robust type of track, and it's so much easier to put together.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Neil, the club president, and he was kind enough to teach me about the library here at AMR.
So the purpose of the library is so that members can learn different skills. So there's a lot of books, magazines, some with plans of how to build trains, how to build track, how to build signals, and all sorts of different skills that members can actually pick up from the library. All the books are available to be borrowed, and as we mentioned just before, there's some other clubs that actually have libraries as well. So it's a good opportunity. You probably don't find it quite as much with the younger members, but definitely some of the older members will definitely borrow stuff. There's a lot of books on trains. There's some on carriages, and as I mentioned, all sorts of different engineering skills that people can actually pick up. So, and it's been built up over a couple of years. A lot of it is books that have been donated to the club. Probably every 5 or 10 years, someone from the public who's got no affiliation with the club will say, their father used to be into trains. Here's his book collection, something like that. So there's lots of different ways that we come across all the books that we have. Alan Calder, one of our members here at the club, has categorised everything. As you can see, there's a lot of different boxes behind me, and there's many that are still waiting to be done. So it's good, and everything's available for the members to borrow and look after. Everything that's available, some even international subscriptions and whatever, and they get sent all this stuff. A lot of the members subscribe to one of the ones in Australia, which has a lot of information about local clubs, what's happening about the clubs. There's generally some sort of project that they're building, and they release information over a period of time. One of the members here is building a couple of trains, from that subscription, so it's good. A lot of the information is actually passed on to other members via word of mouth, and there's a lot of sort of members helping other members with different projects. Like I myself built a couple of little carriages with one of the other members, Neil Kinder, who gave me a huge amount of help. I didn't have a background, anything to do with building trains, engineering, welding, anything like that. I was a chef by trade, a long time ago. So they're the skills that I had. So being taught what to do and trying to pick up as many skills as I could along the way is something that happens a lot. There's a lot of, I suppose, sort of help that is passed on through the hobby itself. We 100% rely on volunteers. So it's it's a volunteer organisation, and we we really rely on those people to come down. Obviously, as members get older, they stop coming down, for whatever reason. Quite often it's health reasons. And then we have a lot of, we've had a good influx of younger members coming in recently. Yourself, Ryan, Phoenix, and a bunch of others as well. My kids are getting a bit older, and they might become members as well. So it's really a family. It's a good family environment, and everyone kind of is. Everyone's really aware that it's community volunteer based, we'll occasionally look for new volunteers to try and get people to help out. When we get short on members, and we think we're a bit short on certain days, we generally shoot out something on Facebook about membership. So everything's handmade, so we don't buy any tracking. Everything's handmade by Richard, and the team in the shed. Richard's a huge, he's a huge wealth of knowledge. And from 40 years ago, he was building the track. So it's been a great. I've really enjoyed my time at the club. I've been a member for about 8 or 9 years now. I'm now the current president. Have been for a year. And I think we're heading in a really good direction. And I think we've got some fantastic members with some amazing knowledge, and hopefully we can pass that on to some of the younger members. I think one of the things I will say is that the bigger the club, they tend to have a lot more rules and regulations that they have to follow. Like, for instance, DVR, as far as I know, is quite heavily governed about what they do, and they've even got a lot more rules than we have here. And we'll probably get to that at some stage. Different policies and whatnot. And I think some of the smaller ones I've been to probably don't have that. Probably don't have that sort of as many guidelines as I mentioned, like the bigger clubs. Some of the clubs have got 3.5 inch scale track, 5 inch. We've only got 7 1/4 and 5 here. Some of them have got raised 3 1/4 or raised 5 inch or something like that. Well, we've got lots of projects that we're working on. So we are currently working on installing a brand new toilet block, which will be a massive project for us, which will take over from the kind of little portable ones that have done us for a very long time. The ticket box has been completed in the last couple of years, where all the people sort of line up in the race. It's that's quite new as well, and the public area is always kind of taking shape. We are doing some more expansion on the track work on the ground level. There was big plans to go up over the hill, but that's sort of been shelved and put on hold for now until we can sort of get everything right and looking nice and neat on the ground level. So that's they're kind of the major projects at the moment. We're looking to get some new carriages that the club will actually own, because some of the carriages that we're using that are being used today are on loan, and they'll probably obviously go back at some stage from one of the other clubs, VMR, which is in Harcourt. There's lots of, probably a record number of projects that are happening at the moment, which will take us into the next sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I think when we're any project that we kind of do, we tend to have an idea in our head how long it might take. If it involves the main line, the main running line, there's a deadline because we have to be open the following month for a run day or something. But if it's anything else, like any building works or different stuff like that, it tends to blow out a little bit, only because it's generally the committee that are organising all the projects and when they happen and how they happen and all that sort of thing, and we're all full-time workers. So we just we try and do it when we can and fit in around families and our work, depending on when it is, but it tends to be always a bit slower than we think it's going to be. So, but it's our track plan that we've got, that we've just started work on again to extend it. That's essentially a 5-year project. It'll probably be completed well before that. but still, it's still a 5-year project.